All right, we are live. Okay, hi everybody. Today, in honor of Stalking Awareness Month, I am joined by some other Access team members and some members of the Iowa State University Police Department to talk about stalking, what it is, signs of it, how to keep yourself safe. I hope you guys join us, learn something, and enjoy what everybody has to say. I'm Courtney. I'm the development coordinator at Access. So I'll just go ahead and start off the introductions. If we want to go ahead and go around and all introduce ourselves, that way everybody on the call knows who's here. That would be awesome. Anna, let's start with you. You're first up on my screen.
Yeah, I'm Anna Switzentrooper. I am the Campus Outreach and Prevention Coordinator with Access.
Someone else just hop in.
Yeah, I can go next. My name is Iman. I am a domestic abuse advocate with Access, and I work primarily with folks living in Story County. I also do outreach in the ISU community as well.
Hello, I'm Detective Natasha Green. I'm with the ISU Police Department, and I'm currently serving as our Engagement and Inclusion Officer, and I use she, her, hers pronouns.
Hello, everyone. My name is Karima Massaro. I am a police officer with ISUPD. Currently, I'm serving in the engagement and outreach role, and I also use she, her, ella as my pronouns.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for being with us today. I'm excited to hear all of your perspectives. So first question, just to make sure we're all on the same page, what is considered stalking? And I'd love to get perspective both from someone at Access, maybe Iman takes this one, and then also perspective from the ISUPD as well.
Sure. So simply put, stalking is a pattern of behavior that's directed at a specific person that would cause that person to feel fear. And stalkers use different tactics and methods such as unwanted contact through phone calls, texting, social media, sending unwanted gifts, showing up or approaching the person or their family or friends, monitoring, surveillance, property damage, and threats. And the majority of stalking victims experience both in-person stalking as well as technology-facilitated stalking.
And then from a police, go ahead.
I was going to say thanks for clearing that up, and then yeah, go ahead and add your perspective.
From a police perspective, we understand the more broad definition of stalking and would utilize the same definition that Access is using, but we also understand that when people are coming to us for services, one of the things that they might be looking for is criminal or legal repercussions for those behaviors. So the Iowa Criminal Code defines stalking pretty specifically in a pretty limited way. So I'm going to literally just quote part of it and then paraphrase. So a person commits stalking when all of the following occur. They purposefully engage in a course of conduct directed at a specific person that would cause a reasonable person to fear bodily injury to or death of either themselves or a member of their immediate family. And then there are other subsections that go on to state, or if they're in the close proximity of someone and they know that that could cause that fear. So what's really important out of that very legal jargony definition is that it's a pattern or a course of conduct. Fancy way to say pattern of behavior. So it's not just one event, but multiple. And so the way that we engage with that is the way we engage with other crimes that are patterns of behavior.
Great. I'm glad we got both perspectives there. So I know you both kind of mentioned and touched on this a little bit, but what are some examples of stalking behavior? And maybe what are some things that stalking looks like that we don't usually, some people might not usually recognize as stalking? Anna, how about you take that one away?
Yeah, Iman mentioned a lot of them. So going back and touching on that, if you are watching this after, is really good. But some really common ones: showing up where either someone was, so the stalker will show up without being invited to places that the person they're stalking is already, Also just constant contact. So sending a ton of text messages, calling a lot, sending a ton of Snapchats, anything that is excessive and unwarranted, or beyond what would seem normal for that relationship. Also, a lot of times stalking and intimate partner violence go hand in hand because stalking is often used as a form of power and control. And so constantly monitoring their partner's actions, who they're talking to, where they're going, whether that's through technology, which I know we're going to talk a little bit more about cyber stalking, but whether that's tracking them through their phone, constantly asking, where are you going? Just going along with or being there, as I mentioned, like showing up unannounced. It's also used often after a relationship has ended, so that in a threatening way. So maybe posting pictures at a location that that person was just the day before, or constantly texting or trying to get in contact with family members or close friends to figure out what that person's doing, who they're talking to, things like that. And I think one thing that is common with stalking that people might not always recognize or acknowledge is gift giving. Stalkers will leave gifts or send gifts, and in our culture, it's common to be like, oh, like you don't want to say no to a gift or say, oh, this gift is bad. So when communicating, oh, like these flowers showed up at like my office and I didn't want them, can be not only tricky to process, but also to communicate with other people in their lives that this gift felt threatening. That's one that comes to mind when thinking about stalking examples that aren't always thought of as stalking.
I'm seeing nods in agreement, but just want to give space if there's anything anyone wants to add.
I think one thing to add that's pretty important I've seen in previous cases, I won't go into detail, but like Anna said, highlighting things that people have done in the past. So some people are very tech savvy and know how to have access to emails, bank accounts, telephone records, things like that. I am not that tech savvy, but there are people that are, and sometimes they can use that as intimidation. So like Anna was saying, if they've been at a previous location and these people are tracking them, will also use that as oh, this is my new favorite coffee shop, for example, because they know that that person goes there. So almost like a scare tactic slash I know where you've been kind of thing. So I'm glad you mentioned that, Anna.
Definitely. So law enforcement, this is a question for you both. How do you go about talking to law enforcement if you think you're being stalked or want some help? How does that happen, and what can you do to help people?
So I'll start on this and then I'll let Officer Massaro chime in as well. But we understand that many people have hesitations reaching out to law enforcement, whether that's because they're worried it's not that big of a deal, or they have concerns about how police will respond or if they'll listen to them and they'll be believed. We understand that, and those fears are valid and real. But at our agency and in our community, we're going to listen to the person and try and assess safety risks, give options, and then let the person who's experiencing these things decide what course of conduct they want to pursue from there. So even if we as officers think, oh, wow, this is a lot, we have a lot of evidence already, we'd like to move forward with, say, an investigation or charges, the person that's experiencing those crimes, the victim might not want that, and we're going to the best of our ability, follow through with whatever they're wanting in the moment. But really, people can contact us by calling our 515-294-4428 number. They can email, we get emails sometimes, and then we can follow up the way that's most comfortable for them, whether that's in person or over the phone or even through email. We can at least get some of the preliminary information that way, because we understand it's really hard to talk with us. I also always encourage people to reach out to Access. they can be really helpful in understanding what each step of the process will look like and answering any of those fear questions we might have so that you're not as intimidated or concerned when you come to us.
Great.
Yeah, she basically covered everything. I think it's important for people to know that they can come to us about any of that. And honestly, as a victim, you get to choose when you pursue certain things and when you get to file certain things. So if talking to us and creating a plan is your way of having an easy mind, then we can do that. We're also going to respect whatever it is that you want, because you have that right. That is your right. You get to say your story. We don't get to do that.
So outside of law enforcement, you guys mentioned they can come to Access. Anna and Iman, do you maybe just want to touch on how Access would respond to somebody coming to us, and then maybe just some other resources that people have if they're experiencing stalking?
Sure. So yeah, like it was mentioned, Access is a great place to start, as well as other victim service agencies. We are free and confidential, and so if someone isn't ready to, take the next step, if they, if they're not ready to talk to law enforcement or anything like that, they can come to us first. We're confidential. We're not going to share that information with anyone. And yeah, we can provide resources and support. One of the things that we work with people experiencing stalking, one of the bigger things that we work on is creating a safety plan. And that is an important document that helps keep people safe in different situations. They can refer to it as needed. It can be used if people are currently in that relationship, or they've been out of that relationship, or are planning on leaving that relationship. And so that's one of the bigger things that we work with our clients on, is creating that safety plan.
And I'll also just say all the resources that we're talking about here in this video, I'll link them in the comments of this video. That way they're easy access for anyone watching. So let's talk a little bit about cyber stalking. Is that different than quote unquote regular stalking? Iman, you want to take that one away too?
Sure. So cyber stalking is a form of stalking. It's evolved over the years as technology has advanced. And so unfortunately, technology does make it easier for stalkers to stalk people. And so cyber stalking is defined as using technology as a tactic of abuse to monitor, track, harass, stalk, or control someone. And this can include misusing tracking devices to monitor someone's location, listening in on conversations, monitoring phone and computer activity, using technology to impersonate someone, sending harassing and threatening messages, posting content on social media about someone with the intent to harm them. And so it is just a different form of stalking. Still as scary, just as scary. It could do a lot of damage. With the way technology is misused, it can definitely do a lot of harm and damage.
So how would someone keep themselves safe from cyber stalking? I assume it's a lot different than stalking someone in person.
Yeah, so one of the things we tell people to do is to document everything. Documentation is very important. Talking to a support system, whether it's family or friends or an advocate, safety planning. And with safety planning, there's a lot of templates available online, thehotline.org, or there is a college student specific one available at loveisrespect.org. And there is a fairly new app called DocuSafe. It came out last summer, and It gives survivors a way to document, store, and share evidence of abuse, harassing text messages, threatening social media posts, anything that's going on. And having that documentation can help show patterns, identify escalating behavior, and if someone is wanting to move forward with making a report to law enforcement, it does provide that evidence to law enforcement and courts. So I don't know if someone has anything else to add.
I can just chime in briefly. Some of the internet safety tips, if you will, or the media safety tips that we have all received can be helpful, but we really want to give the big caveat that just because everyone's tech savviness doesn't mean that they're always on top of what apps have what permissions, doesn't make it the victim's fault. So while these can be tips for somebody who is worried about some of these things happening to them, or if that could, whether or not they might have, not selected something on an app or had their location visible, things like that. Those are just options for people to consider changing to tighten their security, but it's not their fault if somebody uses that against them. And law enforcement will respond by addressing the issue, not by placing blame or doing anything like that. But it can be helpful to know the ways to reset some of your security information on any platform where you might be sharing anything personal. And if you don't know how to do that, particularly if you're a student, knowing that our IT services here on campus are willing to help with some of those concerns and requests. And I love that because then I don't have to be the expert either. They can be. And then I feel a lot more secure in the information that I'm getting. So just know that that's an available resource open for anyone who's at all connected to the university.
That's a really important point. So I'm glad that you brought that up. The question that I have now for you is one that I just love to ask in all sorts of lives like this. What's something about stalking that you just wish everyone knew? Whether it's something a lot of people understand or don't, what's a piece of advice or a piece of information that you just wish everyone knew? I'd love to hear from all of you.
I can start. I think the first thing that comes to mind is that stalking is serious. I think stalking is something that has been normalized and even sometimes romanticized in our culture, where it's like, oh, it's so cute. He likes you so much. He just keeps showing up where you want, like where you are. Like he just really likes you. But it's not romantic. It's not cute. It's scary for those that are experiencing it, and it's something to be taken seriously. So that's for people who are experiencing it, and also just everyone, because whether it's you or someone that you know, knowing that it is a serious thing can help in responding appropriately.
Yeah, Anna said exactly what I was going to say, is that experiencing stalking is very scary. So we definitely encourage people to reach out for help. And if you are that person, if a family member or a friend reaches out to you and says, hey, I think I'm being stalked, I'm experiencing these things, just being supportive, taking their concerns seriously, that's very, very important, in having that support there for the person experiencing the stalking.
For sure. I think for me, something that is very important for everyone to know is that it's not your fault. It is not your fault if someone is doing this. And I never want someone to think that they did something wrong that formed this pattern or this behavior on someone else. They are responsible for their actions. And whatever it is that you're thinking, it is not your fault. I never want anyone to think that.
I think what I wish everybody knew is that there are a lot of options. And I get that, again, law enforcement isn't a trusted support for many, and that's on us to fix. But if law enforcement is something that you could see utilizing a resource and you're experiencing things that feel harassing or they feel like stalking behavior, it's probably because they are. So please know that there are a lot of interventions we can do even before things like arrests or charges, whether it's a no harassment notice or us doing safety planning, different things, knowing that there are a multitude of options and that we're going to walk you through selecting whichever one is going to work best for your needs. I don't want anyone to feel like they have to be alone in addressing these because stalking is really complex and can be a huge risk factor for escalation. So we want you to get support from whomever you trust as a professional.
Great. That's great information and advice from all of you. Is there anything about stalking, whether that's stalking behavior, just tips on how to stay safe that we haven't talked about that you really wanted to be sure to share today? Just want to leave space for that.
I can't think of anything else.
Great. Hearing none then. That was awesome information. Thank you guys all so much for sharing your perspective and your expertise. And thank you to everyone who joined in today. I hope that you learned something. And as I said before, I'll make sure to leave all the resources that we talked about in the comments of this video. Other than that, thanks for tuning in. Hope you all have a great day.
Thank you.